Hmm?
Good afternoon, students. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you so much. Very good afternoon to all. Yesterday we have ended up uh, somewhere in the middle of our grid clustering. So let me have a look into this one and let us move on to the measuring the clustering quality. So we have gone through the grid based clustering in that one. We have gone through a technique called as the STING. STING stands for a statistical information grid approach, where here we have a set of the structure of the grid is divided into the number of layers, the layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and the information about the lower layer is present in the upper layer, which is present. Okay, and we have gone through another technique called as the click. The click is, will explain us about both the grid-based and the subspace clustering, where here we have gone through what is grid-based, density-based, and subspace clustering technique, and what is a unit in that one, which talks about total data points available in a particular area, and we have discussed about the subspace clustering, and we have gone through an example of the clique also, and hoping that you have understood these concepts very well. I am moving on to the next concept called as the clustering validation and assessment. We have gone on through yesterday itself. And today, let us talk about the major clustering quality, clustering evaluation, measuring clustering quality. So clustering evaluation is nothing but evaluating the goodness of clustering results. So goodness stands for the quality of the cluster, how well the clusters are qualitative one, and evaluating the goodness of clusters, evaluating the quality of clustering results, whether the clusters which are formed are of well used or not. Because if there is no use in forming the cluster, there is no meaning for that. Okay, so no commonly recognized best suitable measure in practice. So as of now, there is no proper measure to give the qualitative cluster, in the sense the quality of the cluster is measured only by means of the process improvement. As of we have certain measures, to that extent we can measure something, but the best measure in measuring the quality of the cluster is uh, keep on practicing and going for the better, the process improvement, better to call it as. Okay, in the process improvement itself will attain the quality of certain things, where we have gone through the quality in various means. The same thing is applicable in uh, different streams also. In order to achieve the quality, the only weapon what is being available is the process improvement. So, to the existing process, we are going to add something called as delta X, where we are going to achieve a little more quality for that one. So three categorizations of measures we have: the external, internal, and relative. Okay, so the most important method what we are going to talk in today's class is the external measure, and the internal and relative measures of the nominal ones, where just we are going to have a glance on them and what are the formulas for that one. And we are going to calculate one problem for the external measures, and we are going to have a brief description about the internal and relative with the help of a just general formulas, and we are going to end up. Okay, so here the external supervised external measure is nothing but the supervised one, which is going to employ criteria on the data set. So here we have a compare a clustering against prior or expert specified knowledge. So when we talk about this external measure, then the cluster which is formed, or the knowledge for this one is the expert specified knowledge, means the predefined or predetermined results will be available, knowing that how to match the quality of the cluster with the available, just like we have the expected outcome and actual outcome. Okay, so what output we have got, and we are going to measure that output against the expected outcome and the actual outcome what need to be. So this actual outcome what need to have is nothing but the expert specified knowledge. Okay, the actual outcome is the predetermined or predefined for this particular measure, and we are going to evaluate the output what we got against this actual outcome, which is nothing but we are going to call it as the ground truth, expert specified knowledge, or the ground truth. So please remember this point, the ground truth. We are going to make use of it in the coming class, sorry, coming slide. Okay, so the ground truth is nothing but the expert specified knowledge using certain clustering quality measures. The next one is the internal, which is unsupervised one, where the criteria derived from the data itself. So there is no defined or predetermined criteria for this unsupervised one. So we are going to derive the criteria from the data itself. So we have a set of points, and we are going to apply some algorithm across it, and into which particular cluster that data set. According to that, the data adjusts among itself by using various clustering techniques as we have seen as of now. Okay, so evaluate the goodness of a cluster by considering how well the clusters are separated and how compact the clusters are. And for this one, we'll be making use of an algorithm called as Hill-Houghton coefficient. Okay, by using this. Next, relative. Directly compare different clusterings, usually those obtained via different parameter settings for the same algorithm. Okay, so directly compare different clusterings means we are going to compare directly the different sort of clusters by varying the parameters. So what are these parameters? The parameters are nothing but the mean, the deviations. Okay, these fall under the parameters for this one. Okay, the mean value, the standard deviation for this one, the number of clusters available, the number of data points in each cluster. So we are going to vary these parameters and we are going to verify across the given data. Okay, by applying or by changing the values in these particular parameters with the same algorithm, we are going to see the difference, and we are going to compare the different clustering techniques. Next, the constraint-based clustering, which is nothing but measuring the clustering quality, where we have here given the ground truth T. So given the ground truth T is nothing but as the ground truth. We have seen this ground truth even in the previous slide. So which is nothing but the predefined set of outcomes or outputs or the values what we are expecting out of this one. Okay, so this is nothing but the ground truth, and Q of C comma T is nothing but the measuring function. C stands for the clustering. Okay, so is the quality measure for clustering C. So for measuring the quality of some cluster C. Okay, how we are going to measure? Q of C comma T. C represents the Q represents the quality measure. So clustering C across some ground truth T, right? So the quality is measured with the help of the variable called as the Q, which gives the quality measure. The quality measure is represented by Q, and with the clustering C means then what sort of clustering we have implemented across the ground truth T. So Q of C comma T is good if it satisfies the following four essential criteria. So we can say that this quality C comma T, the quality measure, T represents the clustering and T represents the truth table, is good if it satisfies the following four essential criteria. The first one is cluster homogeneity. You know the meaning of the homogeneity, no need to explain it better. So the purer, the better. Okay, when we can say a cluster is the purer one where it has only the homogeneity existing in this particular cluster, means all the data points are tightly bounded with good homogeneity having the similar property, then we can say that cluster is the betterer one. So the purer, the betterer. Okay, next, the cluster completeness, right? So the cluster completeness is assign objects belonging to the same category in the ground truth to the same cluster. So we are calling it as the cluster completeness. Completeness is nothing but assigning the data objects which are available in that particular data set to the existing clusters. So suppose if four clusters are being existing and we are going to assign all the data objects to all the four different clusters, then we can say none of the data point is left idle, and it is made all the data points are part of some particular cluster, then we can say that it is the cluster completeness. Next, RAG back better than aliens. So putting a heterogeneous object into a pure cluster should be penalized more than putting it into a rag bag. So putting a heterogeneous object in the sense the object which does not belong to anyone into a pure cluster. So what is pure cluster here? The pure cluster is the homogeneity of that one. Means the cluster having all the objects which are having the common properties, and in this particular cluster having all the common properties, if you are going to put some object which does not belonging to this particular cluster, then it will become an odd man out into this particular cluster, and it should be penalized more than putting it into a rag bag. Rag bag is nothing but, suppose as I told that it is not possible to put this heterogeneous object into this pure cluster. So what happens at that point of time? It needs to be put into some other particular cluster. That particular cluster might be some miscellaneous clusters or clusters belonging to some other category. If you have some other category cluster, then we are going to put this particular heterogeneous cluster into that other category. And even if this other category clusters does not come, then we are going to form some miscellaneous clusters. Okay. Next, smaller cluster preservation. Splitting a small category into pieces is more harmful than splitting a larger category into pieces. So suppose if we have some 10 objects in this particular cluster, some in this particular data space. This is not a cluster. Let us suppose this as a data space, right? So this in the data space we have the data points, and these data points need to be set into some particular cluster. So it is very important while dividing the data points into pieces in such a way that these data points need to belong to some particular cluster. Okay, it is not the case that as I am having 10 different data points in this particular cluster, I want to make these 3 data points as one cluster and the other 3 data points as some other cluster and some 4 data points as some other data, another cluster, which is very, very harmful in the process of implementing the clustering technique. So splitting a smaller category into pieces is more harmful than splitting a larger category. So the larger modules can be divided into smaller modules, but if we keep on dividing the smaller modules into very smaller modules, then the implementation of the clustering will become very harmful, and it may not lead to the quality clusters at all. So this is about the measuring quality uh, clusters using the external methods, and let us move on to the next one. So here commonly used external measures are the match based measures. The match based measures consist of measuring the purity, maximum matching, and F measure. These are the 3 different measures. So the matching based measure. And next, the entropy based measures. So in the entropy based measures, we have conditional entropy, normalized mutual information, and variation of information. Pairwise measures, we have 4 possibilities. We have TP represents the true positive. Pairwise measures true positive. This is the first negative, first positive, and true negative. F stands for first. Okay, so the pair measures, we have 4 possibilities. The one is the true positive, first negative, first positive, and true negative. And we have Jaccard coefficient, Rand statistic, Fox-Mallow measure. These are the another 3 methods which will fall under the pair measures. And at last, we have another measurement called as the correlation measure, which is going to measure the discretized hydrostatic, normalized discretized hydrostatic. So these are the 2 different types of correlation measures. And in today's class, we are going to talk about the purity, the maximum matching measures, and these are the other measures where we are not going to discuss them in detail. Just we are going to have the brief description about these different sort of measures, having understanding, just remembering of the formulas of them. But we are going to have an example in the purity and maximum matching clustering technique. So if you look into this one, matching based measures, purity versus maximum matching. So here the purity talks about the purity is nothing but purity quantifies the extent that cluster Ci contains points only from one ground truth partition. So if you look into the figure which is given on the right side, here we have the three different types of objects which are being divided into basing on the ground truth. The ground truth T1 represents a kind of maroon color or something brown color, where we have the different sort of data points existing in this particular cluster, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the T1 represents, and the other one is the T2 ground truth, where which is represented in the form of blue color data points which are mentioned here, and the other one is the T3 ground truth, where the data points are represented in the form of black color. And these three ground truths, T1, T2, and T3, are formed are confined to three different clusters. The one is the cluster one for the ground truth T1 is the T1, this one, and for the T2, the T2 data point, this one, and for the T3, this one is the cluster. If you look into it. Okay, and here we are going to calculate the purity of the any one of these particular cluster basing on the formula purity I is equal to 1 by Ni max of J is equal to 1 to K of Nij. So what is this Nij represents and what is this Ni represents? Try to understand here, right? Here Ni represents the total number of points available in this particular cluster. The total number of, irrespective of the color. Just you see, if you take one cluster, suppose this black one, what is the number of points available in this one? Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 black dots we have and 2 brown dots we have. So total number of points are 9 in number. How many? 9 in number. That represents this Ni. And this Nij represents, according to the ground truth given, what is the number of data points available. The ground truth is nothing but here the black one which is representing T3, right? So according to this one, what is the number of data points available which belongs to this particular cluster? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 black data points are available in this particular cluster. So we have here the value as 7 by 9 is the value for this. So the purity of this particular one is 7 by 9. Like that, when we want to calculate the total purity of the clustering C, it can be calculated with the help of C is equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3. Sorry, C is equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3. So these three clusters we have C1, C2 and C3. So the total purity can be calculated as the combination of the value of these three clusters C1 plus C2 plus C3, which gives, and we can calculate the final purity of that one. And if you take for example another cluster, suppose this brown blue dots which are available here, so the number of data points available in this one uh, which belongs to the ground truth, and the total number of data points available in this particular one. You can calculate on your own, where you can come out with some value for this the purity, and you can add them. Purity is equal to summation of, that's why it is been given summation of 1 by n sigma I is equal to 1 to R. R represents the number of clusters. Okay, here we have 3 clusters, but it may represent that still how many clusters we can have. We can divide the R number of clusters, we can divide this data into, and this Nij represents the number of data points available in each particular cluster according to the ground truth, because the ground truth blue one should have the blue dots, the black one should have the black, the brown one should have the brown. Okay, so it gives the final value of the purity of this one. So this is what you can calculate this one, so that you can get the values, because if you take this brown one, here we have all the brown data points itself. Okay, so this one is nothing but 6 by 6 is the value for calculating the purity of this particular cluster. 6 by 6 is equal to 1, and when 6 by 6 the purity is 1, then we can say the cluster is a perfect cluster, right? So you see here the perfect clustering if purity is equal to 1. So as we have the data points available in this particular cluster, the brown one is 6 by 6, right? So we can say this is the pure cluster, because this one doesn't have any data points in blue color or in black color, only the brown color data points are available. So we can say it is 6 by 6, and as the 6 by 6 is 1, it is the purity is 1. When the purity is 1, it is nothing but the perfect cluster what we have here. Okay, and R is equal to K. R represents the number of clusters where the clusters are moving C1, C2, C3 up to CR, and K represents the number of groups. K represents the number of groups obtained is the same as that in the ground truth. So here there is an example for this one, the green or orange. If you look into these two tables, okay, the purity is equal to 1. We have mentioned the number of clusters across this line, and the number of ground truth tables across this line, and here the sum is being calculated, and here the M value is being calculated. Okay, so if you look into this one, the purity of 1 is given, purity of 1. So if you look into this, the cluster 1, right? So the cluster 1 T1, cluster 2 C1 T1, C1 T2, C1 T3. But if you look into this one, sorry, if you look into this, the C1 till T3, so the maximum number of points which are available in C1 are from T3, because this 30 represents, we need to consider this particular value because the ground truth value is 30, which is larger than that of T2. So we are going to consider this one. So purity 1 is equal to 30 by 50. And next the purity T2, next this one. So if you look into this one, we have the values 0, 20 or 5. So 20 is the maximum value which is available in this. So we are considering that one, which is nothing but 20 by 5. And if you look into this C3, which is nothing but the purity 25 by 25, which is nothing but we have 25, 0 and 0 values available. So we are considering this 25 as the value, 25 by 25. And in order to get the total purity, we are adding this one 30 plus 20 plus 25 by the final value, which is nothing but the summation of this 50, 20 plus 25, which gives the 100, and the total value is 0.75. So 0.75, what does this 0.75 represent? What I have said, that in order to know that the purity of the cluster is said to be purity when the value of that purity is 1. But here the value what I got is 0.75. So as it is 0.75, I can accept this to some extent, because in order to consider the cluster purity of the cluster, the percentage of it should be more than that of 0.6. right? I can consider here are 60%. The clustering, the cluster to be considered, it should be of 60% clear, or the data points available in this, in that particular cluster need to be similar to that of the data object, right? So if the 60% of the matching exists, then I can consider that particular cluster, otherwise I cannot. So two clusters may share the same major partition. If you look into the same, this one, the maximum matching. One more important thing I want to tell you is that even though once, if you consider the diagonal of this particular data available, then also we can find the result of that one. This is the example which is being given. If you consider 30 by 50, 20 by 25, and 25 by 25, then we can get the purity of that one, right? So in the similar way, in the process of matching, maximum matching also, just you consider the diagonal values where you'll get 20 by 50, 20 by 25, and 25 by 25, will get it as 0.65, which is greater than that of the 0.6, so that I am going to consider even this orange one, because it is the pure one. So within that we have understood this matching based clustering. I am moving on to the next one. Matching based measures with the help of F measure, we are going to call it as. And this is going to be measured with the help of two important formulas, which is nothing but the precision and recall. Okay, precision and recall. So how the precision is measured? The precision is measured the fraction of points in C I from majority partition Ci, that is same as purity, where Ji is the partition that contains the maximum number of points from C1. So here, let us take an example for the green table, what is being available here in order to measure the precision for this table, right? The same thing I am following as I have followed in the last example. We are going to measure the maximum values what are available in this one. Some, if you consider the C1 as the cluster, right? Which ground truth I need to consider? Whether I need to consider T1, T2, or T3. I'm going to consider the ground truth as T3, because in this line it is the maximum one. So 30 by 50, I'm going to get the value as the precision according to this particular formula what we have already seen even in the last case also. And the next one is 20 by 25 and 25 by 25, which gives the precision value for us. Okay. And once you add all these things, then you are going to get the output 30 by 50 plus 20 by 25 plus 25 by 25, right? So 30 plus 20 plus 25 is 0.75. 75 by 100, and 75 by 100 is the 0.75, the value what you are going to get even with the help of F measure also. The earlier one we have seen the purity and the maximum method, and in this one we are following the F measure. Even though we are following the F measure for the same thing, we are getting the same output as the value. Next, the recall, the fraction of point in partition Ti shared in common with cluster Ci, where Mij is equal to Tij, where the recall is calculated as recall of I is equal to Nij by Tji is equal to Nij by Nji. And the example for this one, if you look into this, the recall is calculated in this fashion. Let me explain you that one. So for the green table, recall is, for precision we have considered in this direction, where 30 by 50, 20 by 25, and 25 by 25. But for the recall, we are going to consider the column wise values. So here, (30) divided by 35, and for the recall 2, 20 divided by 40, and for the recall 3, 25 divided by 25. Okay, so we'll get the value, and once you sum up them, right, 30 by 35 plus 20 by 40 plus 25 by 25. So 30 plus 20 gives 30 plus 20 gives 50, 50 plus 25, 75, 75 divided by, what is this? 75 plus 25, 100, the same thing what you are getting. Okay, 0.75. Okay, so this is about the precision and recall. And if you look into F measure, so even the harmonic means of precision and recall. So you have calculated the precision and recall for this one, and you need to sum up these two things in order to get the final F measure. If you look into for the table given here, F1 is nothing but with the help of this formula, F is equal to 1 by R sigma I is equal to 1 to R Fi. It means to say that 1 by R, and one more here, Fi is equal to 2 Nij by Ni plus Mi. So Ni plus Mi. So here, let me explain you within the same example. If you look into F1 is equal to 60 by 85. So what do you mean by this 60 by 85? 60 by 85 is nothing but, if you look into this particular row, what is the maximum value available? 30 is the value available. So this is nothing but 2 into 30 what we are going to take. This is nothing but 2 into Nij, the value what we are going to consider. So 2 into 30 is 60. This is 60 value what we have got. And by Ni plus Mij, Ni plus Mij, the Ni is the 50 value what is been available here, and the 35 what is been available here. So we are going to add up this one, and this value is nothing but the 85 what we have given at the this place. So 60 by 85 is the value what we have given. And next one is F2 is equal to 40 by 65. So the next in this one we are going to consider the value available, the maximum value available in this row is 20, and 22 into 20. Consider this formula here once again. 2 into 20 is nothing but the 40 what we have taken the value here. And if you look here, the value here 25 plus 40, which is nothing but 65, the value what we have taken here. Ni plus Mij is the value what we have taken. Okay, and next, for calculating F3, right, consider this column what we have here. So 2 into 25, which is nothing but the value as 2 into 25, 50, and combining these two values, 25 plus 25, which is nothing but 50. So 50 by 50, the value what you'll get is the value of 1 here. Okay, so these are the values what we have got, F1, F2, and F3, and by applying this formula and summing up all these three things, the output what you are going to get is F 0.774. Okay, so with the help of F measure, we could achieve the result as 0.774 when compared to that of the previous one, which is 0.75, but both of them will fall under the same category. Okay, so but not equal to 1. If it is equal to 1, then it is going to be called as the pure cluster, but the value what we have got is 0.77, which is greater than the 0.6, which is acceptable. Okay, so the similarity is more than 60%. So we are accepting that one, because the more than 60 is nothing but the 0.775, which will fall here. So we are going to accept this cluster, which is nothing but the matching based measure, which is called as F measure. And I hope you are clear with this technique. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me at any point of time by raising your hand, or at the end of the session also. Okay, so let me clear this, and let me move on to the next slide. So this is the entropy measure. I'm not going to explain this one much, because we don't have any need for calculating. This is just for understanding of the different types of measures. because the external measures are very important. Mostly those two things, the F measure and the purity and the mixed matching measures. So this is the way how the entropy of clustering can be calculated. So you can study these things on your own. Okay, just the formulas, even the internal measure also. Next, one thing, the relative measure in the same way, you can study on your own. Okay, I'll give a simple description about here the cluster stability. So clustering is obtained from several data sets sampled from. So how we can know the stability of the cluster? Okay, so we have the clustering obtained from several data sets sampled from the same underlying distribution as the should be similar or stable. So once the clusters are being formed, then they need to be similar or stable. It should not change here and there. The data objects available in one cluster should not move to other. That is the cluster stability. And the typical approach is find good parameter values for given clustering algorithm. So we need to give good parameter values. Okay, because uh, till now the clustering methods, whatever we have seen, either the number of clusters is need to be informed prior in advance, and the number of data points which are available or the data sets available. So basing on these two things, we have formed implemented the clustering techniques, because we know the clustering value, the number of clusters to be formed is well known in advance. Okay, so a bootstrapping approach to find the best value of k judged on uh, stability. So what do you mean by this bootstrapping approach? You may have what is this I think you have heard this term also, the bootstrapping term in some other subject also. If you remember, it is well and good. Otherwise, let me convey you that bootstrapping is a word where you have heard in your compiler design. Okay, so what is this bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is nothing but compiling the compiler in its own language, right? Compiling the compiler is bootstrapping. So what, right? So compiler is compiled on its own. Okay, and if you relate the same thing here, right? So the clustering approach is clustered on its own with, so that we'll get the final outcome. So how the clustering technique will cluster on its own? With the help of the internal clustering techniques, because there we don't have any predetermined or supervised thing available. So it is unsupervised one. So in the unsupervised technique, uh, the data points will going to adjust themselves, and they are going to form the cluster. So generate T samples of size n by sampling from D with replacement. From each sample D, run the same clustering algorithm with k values from 2 to k max. Compare the distance between all pairs of clustering, Ck of Di and Ck of Dj via some distance function, and compute the expected pairwise distance for each value of k. Right? This is the way how you are going to make use of the cluster stability. Okay, and the other methods for finding k, the number of clusters. So this is very important one, where we keep on saying that k number of clusters has formed. So how we are forming the k number of clusters? Sorry, so the k number of clusters. So k is equal to square root of n by 2. So for a data of n points. So if you have some 200 data points, 200 data set of n points, right? Sorry, n points, some 200 points, suppose 200 by 2, which is nothing but 100, and the square root of 100 is nothing but 10. So this is how we are going to calculate the number of clusters depending on the number of data points. Okay, so, so this is how we are going to calculate the number of clusters with the help of the empirical method. And the other one is the elbow method, using the turning point in the curve of the sum of within cluster variance with respect to the number of clusters. The next one is the cross validation method. where divide a given data set into m parts, use m minus 1 parts to obtain a clustering model. So this is about uh, the different types of methods for finding the number of clusters. And for example, for each point in the test set, find the closest centroid and use the sum of squared distance between all points in the test set and the closed centroid to measure how well the model fits the test set. So if you look into this one, right, we'll come across some method what we have learned. Sum of squared distance between all points to test set and closest centroid. So this is nothing but the way how we have measured with the help of different techniques, the Euclidean distance, the squared Euclidean distance, the Manhattan distance, and the cosine distance. So these are the three different types of techniques which has helped us in measuring the squared distance. Okay, and next one is for any k greater than 0, repeat it m times. Compare the overall quality measure with respect to different case and find number of clusters that fit the data the best. Okay, so this is the another way. The next one, clustering tendency, whether the data contains inherent grouping structure, right? The tendency, what do you mean by clustering tendencies? The tendency of the clustering is nothing but the data need to be moved into any sort of group to form, to be part of that cluster is the clustering tendency. It is not that the data what we have taken for clustering that it will not fit into any sort of cluster. It has to fit into any sort of cluster, which is very important. That is nothing but inherent grouping structure. So the data should have the quality that it will fit into any sort of groups, any sort of group to be part of that particular structure. If the data is not having the quality of fitting into any sort of structure, then there is no meaning in forming the cluster. Then the clustering tendency will get failed. Next. Uh, Assessing the suitability of clustering, whether the data has any inherent grouping structure. So this is nothing but assessing the suitability of clustering. Suitability of clustering is nothing but the data should be suitable to be part of any one of the cluster or any one of the group. Okay. This is nothing. Next, determining the clustering tendency or clusterability. So what do you mean by this clusterability? The ability to form into a cluster is nothing but the clusterability. Okay, the example for this one is a hard task because there are so many different definitions of clusters. Example, the partitioning cluster, hierarchical, density based, graph based. Okay, we have seen all these methods, you see. So in each and every definition or in each and every technique, the way they have explained about the clustering is different. It is not common. So we can define the cluster in different means. If you take the partition technique, the way of forming the clustering is different. If you take the hierarchical technique, the way of forming the clustering is different. If you take the density based, it is different. Okay, if you take the graph based, the data points to be represented in the form of a graph. So if you take the partitioning means, then we have implemented the k-means clustering. The data points are represented in the form of on a line, and they started grouping. Next, if you take the hierarchical clustering, we have taken the hierarchical clustering, and in the hierarchical we have the two different means: hierarchical agglomerative and the hierarchical agglomerative clustering and the divisive clustering in this one. So we have seen the two different type of approaches: the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. And the next one is the density-based method we have seen, right? So in the density-based method, the number of data points available in a common area we have seen, and the representation of data in the form of graphs, so that it will be very clear. That is what we have seen in yesterday's class and today's class. That is a grid-based method where, with the help of an example, the number of people taking the salary from 20,000 to 50,000 in the age of uh, 30 to 50 or 20 to 50, and the number of people taking the vacation for 2 to 4 weeks. Because that one. Next. Next is that still there are some clusterability assessment methods such as spatial histogram. Contrast the histogram of the data with the generated from the random samples. Okay, so here one important thing is that spatial histogram itself is a separate technique. Why I'm saying that spatial histogram itself is a separate technique is because the spatial datagram will fall under a special mining called as uh, spatial data mining, right? Spatial histogram will fall under the separate data mining technique called as the spatial data mining, which is very important and vital in the data mining technique, right? So it is going to be contrast. It is going to be different from the histogram of the data that generated from the random sample. The next one is the distance distribution. Compare the pairwise point distance from the data with those from the randomly generated uh, sample. Okay, so compare the pairwise point distance from the data with those from the randomly generated sample. So here in the distance distribution, if you look where we have seen the single linkage, complete linkage, and average linkage thing, where each and every data point needs to be paired with another data point to compare the distance between these two data points, so that whether they fit into this particular group or not, basing on whether it is a core point, border point, or it is the noise point, right? Where we have seen in the density DBNS technique, DB scan, density based technique. Okay, so we need to compare each and every point with respect to a particular core point, and we need to check whether it is going to get paired with that particular point. If it is going to get paired, then it is going to be part of that cluster. If not, it will fit into some other cluster. And this can be done only because here we have selected a point, a data point as a core point, basing on the random generated samples. It is not that mandatorily we need to select some data point as a core point. Just you can select any data point as a any random point as a core point, and you need to apply the same technique basing on the epsilon value and basing on epsilon value and basing on the maximum point value. Okay. Next one is the Hopkins statistics, a sparse sampling test for spatial randomness. Okay, sparse dividing the data into a sparse tree we are going to come across, and we are going to implement the sparse sampling test on that one, which will fall under spatial histogram. And the next one is testing clustering tendency, a spatial histogram approach. The same thing. The spatial histogram approach contrasts the d-dimensional histogram of the input data set D with the histogram generated from the random sample. So the data set D is clusterable if the distribution of the two histograms are clusterable if the distribution of the two histograms are rather different. So if they are different, then only we can implement this one with divide each dimension into equi-width bins, count how many points lie in each cell, and obtain the empirical joint probability mass function for this one, which is nothing but EPMF, which stands for the empirical mass function. EPMF is nothing but empirical probability mass function. So same thing what we have seen this as a particular cell, and the number of points existing in each cell, which is going to say whether it is the subspace or not. If it is a subspace, whether it is the dense subspace or not. If it is a dense subspace, suppose this is one particular cell and this is another particular cell, and we are going to group them into two different things to form cluster. Do the same for the randomly sampled data. We need to keep on doing this one and compute how much they differ using the Hilbert labor KL divergence. So this is about today's class about the grid-based techniques and how we are going to measure the quality of the data with the help of the external quality measures and the internal quality measures, and the next one is the relative measures. External, internal, and relative, where the external measures are classified into uh, different things where we have gone through the purity measure, uh, the matching measure, and the max measure, and we have gone through the F measure also. Okay, so this is what we have seen, and the internal measure technique we have, as I have already told you that we have a small point for this one. So if you have any doubts, please you can raise your voice, or so that I can conclude this one. So I could see some questions here in the dialog box. So give us some clarity about DWDM lab. So at this point of time, you know the situation, we cannot handle the lab, but kindly you make use of the 8 week experiment in this particular week, 8 weeks, and I am going to enable the things where you can upload the data onto the portal, your login portal. Okay, better if you can practice on your own at home, because already solved examples are there. But one important thing is that you need to enable the pandas when you are doing that one, because most of you are unable to execute the programs because that you have not properly installed the pandas in your laptop. Once you install, you can easily execute them. Any next question? Tomorrow I'm going to come up with another example, another topic called as the a priori algorithm. Association rule mind confined to the a priori algorithm. Okay. If you have any sort of doubts, please you can ask. Or you can type here, I can clear your doubt if you have anything. So guys, kindly don't miss tomorrow's class. It is going to be a very important one, the a priori algorithm, okay, which is very important in your data mining, classification, and association rules, how the association rules are formed, and how we are going to relate one item set with another item set, in order to, because uh, as I told that in this grid-based technique, where we have come across the a priori, and I'm going to explain you about that a priori technique. You can see some questions here, sir. Give us some clarity about DWDM. Sir, could you re-upload the assignment questions? The uploaded questions are only one question out of. I didn't get you. What is this? Uploaded questions are only one question out of 10 questions. One question out of 10 questions per. You see, I'm not going to look much serious into these things. Kindly you upload the assignment as given. But my constraint is that you need to write 10 questions. because we are left out with the second half of the syllabus from the third unit half and fourth and fifth unit. You take some 4 questions from fourth and fifth unit, and some 2 questions from second half of the third unit, and you upload the assignment as given in your question bank. So can you please provide this PPT, because we are unable to open the PPT which are in our login. Kindly you would have informed to head of the department, because he is having the admin rights of all these presentations, where he can help you out in uploading this one. Because one, I can give you the text copy of this one, but if you want the voice records of this one, I cannot. These voice records, they might upload them in the IRE YouTube channel. Certainly, I will provide you with the PPTs. Don't worry about it. Any more questions? I hope the time will wind up, because yesterday I have seen the timer will automatically close my session. That's why I have winded up some 5 minutes early today. Any more questions? Hope you have